Talk about low-budget flights. No food or movies? I'm out of here. I like running better. Welcome back, YouTube viewers, to another video. So before we get into today's topic, I'd like to remind you all about my 100 subscriber goal by June 11th. I'm confident that I can make it by then, although I might not be able to, so let's just try to keep it up, okay? So today, we're diving back into Ninjago. My Moro video did incredibly well. It's already my 4th most viewed video. I like that video a lot too, and if you like my analysis, whatever, I encourage all of you who haven't watched it to watch my review of How to Train Your Dragon 3. That's a video I'm most proud of, and maybe someday I'll re-review that movie, but I don't know, I'd like for you to all check that out. Today we're going over Pythor from Ninjago, and why Pythor is the best villain ever. I don't just mean best Ninjago villain, best Lego villain, which actually a pretty decent list, by the way. Best animated villain, no. He's the best villain ever. Obviously, that's subjective. In my opinion, Pythor is the best villain ever, but we're just going to go over why. So, to start, I just love Pythor's introductory episode, Never Trust a Snake. Lloyd finds the Anaconda tomb expecting to unleash the greatest, strongest, most fearsome serpentine ever. Instead, there's just Pythor. He's the only one that's left. As he says, all those years locked away without anything to eat, they must have all starved to death. Because Pythor ate all of his own kind. It's never clear, or at least maybe it is, I'm not sure, but I'm not sure if Pythor ate every other Anaconda or if they all ate each other until Pythor was the last one. I think Pythor just ate all of them, which would make sense as to how he was able to survive for 40 years. But anyway, one thing I love about his introduction here is that he has a British accent for one thing. You know, a lot of great villains have British accents for some reason. Tai Lung, Lord Shen. I guess for some reason all the characters in Gladiator have British accents, but that's because it sounds fancy. Anyway, Michael Dobson was perfectly cast to play Pythor. He did such a good job throughout the entire show. And the way he's introduced here, where he clearly wants the map of dens that Lloyd has, but he decides to just be his friend, his henchman, says, I hardly have any friends. Hey, I hardly have any friends too. You don't say. And he just humors Lloyd and goes along with his plans to get revenge on Darkly's boarding school for bad boys. And then, of course, Pythor reveals that he was just playing Lloyd, steals his map, and is on his way. And this launches Pythor into being the main villain of the first season in Ninjago. And this is where he gets really good. Because now we actually get to see him get stuff done. The next time we see him is that we know he's just going up to open the last 2 Serpentine tombs. Except every time the ninja get to them, they're already late. Pythor was already there. And then the Serpentine, along with Pythor, have all the ninja cornered. He steals the secret flute, meaning they have no way to combat the Serpentine's powers. And he's effectively just won. If it weren't for Samurai X showing up at the last second, he probably would have killed all 4 of the ninja easily. And then at the end of the episode, he tries to unite all the Serpentine tribes. And he would have done it too, if not for the ninja being able to stop him, of course. And then we see him again. He is discovering the lost city of Ouroboros. Also, we get to see Pythor here. He's very grandiose. He really likes to show off. I like that in a villain. When the villain is always ready to show his big master plan, to where he tells all the Serpentine, you want to fight? You want to see a show? Well, I give you a show! And he challenges the Serpentine generals for their staffs. And then once he cheats by putting cotton balls in his ears along with scales, because he's his right-hand man now. So he uses the sacred flute against the other Serpentine generals because he still has it, which he never uses it again. I guess he just got rid of it, which, fair enough. It's not like he ever needed it again anyway. So he's able to beat up the other Serpentine generals really easily, take their staffs, and become king of the Serpentine. So he goes, bow to your master! Bow to your master, Serpentine! Oh, that was really hard on my throat. Anyway, so the next time we see Pythor, really good scene. I don't subplot is more like it. I just like these scenes in episode 7 TikTok. Well, the ninja are going through this, specifically Zane is going through this emotional arc about finding out that he's a robot and all that stuff. Pythor is just trying to figure out how to find the map to the 4 silver fang blades to unleash the Great Devourer! And the Serpentine just can't figure it out, and all the other generals are thinking maybe they should just take their tribes and leave Pythor. As he's just questioning, it says when the 5 fangs unite. But as it turns out, it didn't mean the 5 tribes uniting. It meant the venom in each Serpentine general's staffs coming together on a map would form the map to the piece of paper on a piece of paper would form the map to the fang blades. I some can say that isn't that kind of weird? I mean, what? But I say that makes sense. I mean, if it were just the 5 tribes uniting, that wouldn't really make any sense. And I don't know, I like it. It's well, one, it's not what you'd expect, and once again, Pythor gets to show off in this episode. I always appreciate that. And then the next 2 episodes, he just keeps on winning, beating the ninja at every turn for a Fang Blade, no matter what. And once again, that's part of the reason why he's a great villain. Well, one, yeah, he gets things done. He doesn't just flail around and then win because the ninja are incompetent. You know, like Nauticon. Okay, Nauticon's not a terrible villain, but let's be honest with ourselves. Season 6's plot only works because all the ninja are made to be incompetent idiots who can't do anything. Pythor, no. Pythor is just really smart, no matter how smart the ninja are, because they actually are competent here. He just keeps beating them at every punch. And then there's, of course, I love the scene too in the Green Ninja episode. It really goes into how just sinister Pythor is too. When he looks at his reflection in the 3rd Fang Blaze, he says, "It's so beautiful." I also like how this doesn't just imply that, oh, it's the Fang Blade, it's great. Because he sees his reflection in it, he's thinking, yeah, I'm so great. Look, I'm gonna unleash the Great Devourer. Makes me wonder that, well, he does want to unleash the Great Devourer, of course, to get revenge on the surface dwellers for locking the Anaconda and the rest of the Serpentine in tombs. It feels like part of it is just he wants to do something big to prove how great he is. Because he already thinks he's amazing. He just wants everybody else to see how amazing he is. I never thought of that until right now. I guess that's some pretty good subtext under the writing. And then, of course, at the end of the episode, a scene that always stuck in my head, where the Serpentine are walking away from the Fire Temple, super mad and beaten they couldn't get the 3rd Fang Blade. But then Pythor spots it in the lava river, picks it up, and says, "Keep it cold, boys. We've only got one more to go." And then he looks into the camera and sinisterly laughs. And this whole time, he does this not just presence and intimidation, but he's also really funny, which is something that gets expanded on later. But he also never loses his intimidation, no matter how many jokes he makes or are made about him. That's a really hard thing to balance in writing, but nope, they managed to do it. But then at the end of the season, when he is about to, he unleashes the Great Devourer, and Sensei Wu confronts him. As Pythor is trying to rationalize unleashing the Great Devourer, how, don't you see? This is the only way we can get revenge on the surface dwellers for locking us up in those insidious tombs for all those years. But as Sensei Wu tells him, what have you done? You are playing with a power that cannot be controlled. It will consume everything, even the Serpentine. And Pythor obviously doesn't care and expects the Great Devourer to come out of the giant statue that was built in its honor. But it's, as he says, it's not inside the statue? Then where is it? And then he just sees 2 gigantic glowing eyes underneath the floors. He says, it's so big! And he tries to escape. But he finally gets his comeuppance as Sensei Wu grabs him and says, you will stay to see what you have done. This is our destiny. And Pythor gets eaten alive and is presumably dead. I'm really glad that Pythor came back eventually, and they did such great things with this character later, but this would have been a really good ending to his character. He probably would end up being my favorite fictional villain ever, but Pythor's a really good villain here, as we've already mentioned before. But eventually he comes back in a really interesting way. In Season 3, the Overlord has been, well, his digital hard drive copy of himself has been saved by this mysterious stranger, who we do hear as a Serpentine. And there's only one Serpentine who is so fond of electric cobra. And then, well, one, also, I just like how this is set up. He's a Serpentine. Okay, we know the mysterious stranger is a Serpentine. Except he has white scales. Okay, some of the vampire have white scales, but couldn't be Pythor. Pythor wouldn't even cross your mind. I mean, the credits say Michael Dobson as Pythor, but I mean, how many people watching this would have actually noticed that? And this was something. It wasn't something people noticed until years later, anyway. But once again, much like Pythor in Season 1, he was just able to beat the ninja at every turn, able to trace Lloyd and follow him and Garmadon to Hiroshi's labyrinth. But then the real kicker comes when Lloyd gets wrapped up by a robot purple snake, and you're thinking, okay, it's just a robot purple snake, whatever. But then, the mysterious stranger goes up to Lloyd, pulls off his hood, and reveals that it's Pythor the whole time. Once again, great writing on the Hagen brothers' part, and I guess Tommy Andresen too, but he's one. The purple snake isn't something you immediately think, oh yeah, Pythor. You think it after it's revealed, which makes it when you rewatch it better, because you're thinking, oh yeah, that is Pythor. And the explanation makes sense. If Sensei Wu survived the Great Devourer, then why couldn't Pythor? But as he says, I suffered a worse fate, digested in the bowels of the Devourer. It can wreak havoc on one's complexion. Which is why he has white skin now, or scales instead of being purple. So he just has bits of purple left on him. And, yeah, Pythor doesn't really do much after this. I mean, I guess he does. He's still there, of course, but he's really more so just there as a menacing villain than the main villain now. He's the General Grievous, except actually menacing. And, I don't know what else to say about him in Season 3. I liked his few exchanges with General Cryptor, and I like how he's just able to boss around all the Nindroids, because even though also he had this, side note, he had this weird, I guess it made sense, he had this creaky voice when he reveals himself to Lloyd, which he just loses immediately after in the next episode, but whatever. So he leads the Nindroid charge on Borg Tower. He's in charge of Project Arcturus. And he's there when the Overlord becomes the Golden Master and destroys Ninjago City. Well, then, of course, the real kicker comes when the ninja get their shrinking pill from Cyrus Borg. They can hit into the Overlord's mouth and shrink him down, so he'll be pretty much defenseless. But then Pythor jumps in the way, swallows it, shrinks down, and gets chased by the Falcon. This is such a great twist, especially the first time you watch it. Season 3 was able to do two great twists with Pythor. Of course, the Mysterious Stranger thing, and now this, it's so out of left field and bonkers, yet it fits Ninjago's tone so perfectly. It also shows that the Overlord's not going to be able to beat him that easily. He was only beaten because Zane sacrificed himself, which is a great moment, too. You get many great moments out of this finale. But then Pythor reappears next in Season 4. As Sensei Wu says, the only way in order to learn how to defeat a snake, one must talk to one first. So we get our first time seeing Cryptaria in prison as the warden brings the ninja in. They see all these classic villains, Ninjroids, who are for some reason still here, the giant stone warrior, which is somehow here, but whatever, Captain Soto and his crew, okay, some Skullkin. But then he says, but there's the one, he hates ninja the most. And it's Pythor shrunk down, looks like a Barbie house or something, with a basketball with the Wilson face from that Tom Hanks movie Castaway, as he calls it Rodrigo and is drinking tea. And then the ninja and Garmadon need his help. And he obviously doesn't want to help a ninja, as he says, why would I ever help you? You've fed me to the Devourer, defeated every army I've aligned with. My ego has its limits, or my dignity has its limits, you know, or something like that. But then when he sees that Garmadon's an anacondrae, as he says, now I'm fascinated. But as he says, don't you get it? There is no weakness, they're anacondrae! So getting him was pretty much useless. Of course it wasn't actually, because The only way for the spell to be permanent is for the essence. One must obtain the essence of a true Anachondri. Pythor is, of course, the last Anachondri, making him a MacGuffin, except he's a good MacGuffin because he's a character, and a character that we actually care about. Wow. More stories need to have MacGuffin as good as Pythor from Season 4, which, once again, I never realized that until now. I guess making this. I never thought about Pythor this hard, actually, until now. I just always thought, yeah, he's such a great villain. He's charismatic, he's threatening and stuff, but that's it. But then we see that he's able to tell the ninja the one way that can defeat Chen's Anachondri army, which is bringing their spirits out of the cursed realm, which would require cursing Garmadon to take their place. And since Pythor is able to do this and help the ninja, the ghosts of the Anachondri generals use their ghostly powers, I suppose, to bring him back to normal size. As they say, "You have made your ancestors proud. Finally!" And also, Pythor drops a hint, which is the only reason he even helps Lloyd. Because you'd think, why would he care about Anachondri ruling Ninjago? Doesn't he want that? But he says that they're not real Anachondri, they're just imposters. And he tells Lloyd, if anyone's going to rule Ninjago, I'd rather it be me. And some people say this is the last we should have seen of Pythor. Not many, I mean. Because, yeah, this would have been a good ending to his character. He's not redeemed, thankfully. He just helped out because the ninja had a common enemy with him. That's it. But he gets one more appearance in Day of the Departed, where he just for some reason walks into the Hall of Villainy in the Ninjago Museum, and they have a statue of him. He says, Hall of Villainy, more like Hall of Empty Knee. You see all this because all the villain statues got brought to life and walked away. Not his though, so he just sees it and then sees the staff it has and says, and just picks it up and starts swinging it around, and then gets his assignment to destroy one of the ninjas, so he goes to kill Lloyd. And once again, Pythor wasn't redeemed or anything. He's still evil, as when Lloyd sees him, he says, Pythor? And Lloyd remembers what he told him. If anyone's going to rule Ninjago, I'd rather it be me. So yeah, Pythor is still evil. So he tries to kill Lloyd by knocking a giant statue on top of him. He gets defeated and jumps off a cliff or is pushed off a cliff or something. And Lloyd asks his mom, do you think he's really gone? And she just replies, Pythor's as cat as he is snake. He has 9 lives. And I was really worried that after this aired, this would be the last time we'd ever see Pythor. Especially Normie after we see he survived, of course. Picks up his staff and says, I should have followed my own advice and brought some sidekicks. And he says he'll do that next time. And then he's just gone for the rest of the show until the very last season, where he reappeared 6 years later. Where he finally brought some sidekicks, or rather, he was a sidekick. Oh boy. Ninjago's one of their first major villains, the first one to really leave an impression as a villain, and their best one, gets reduced to having a few lines, and that's it. I've always thought that you should have gotten rid of Harumi, replaced Mr. F, a dumb replacement of Mr. E for some reason, with General Cryptor, taken the voice budget for Harumi, applied General Cryptor so he could talk, and replaced Harumi with Pythor. And you can also get rid of, I don't know, Aspira. Yeah, I think as long as we had one golden weapon per character. Skull Sorcerer would get the Scythe of Quakes. General Cryptor would get the Shuriken device. The Mechanic would get the Nunchucks of Lightning. And I guess Pythor would get the Sword of Fire. I don't know. There's a lot to be done here. And the thing is, though, even though Pythor isn't here much, he's just there as a member of the Council of the Crystal King, he still is memorable for what we get out of him. I mean, yeah, he finally does have some sidekicks. He still gets some funny lines, and well, you can tell that Michael Dobson hadn't done the voice in a while, and also he's getting a little older, so the voice doesn't sound quite as good as it used to. It still sounds good. He still gets some, and he's still the same character. And it's great to just see It was great to just see Pythor again after all these years. He was such a classic villain that everybody loved. And for him to just get to play off characters like Asphira, it's really fun. Besides, we got that legendary meme video Pythor doesn't accept out of it, which that was very in character. As he just tells, yeah, I don't care if you say you're gonna rule Ninjago, you're not. I've tried it 1,000 times. I'm done with this villainy thing. It doesn't get me anywhere. And then he dies, maybe, I don't know. In conclusion, for all the reasons I've just stated, Pythor is the greatest villain of all time ever. Sure, there are great ones like Death from Puss in Boots: The Last Wish. There's Eggman from the Archie Sonic comics. There's Megatron from Transformers Animated. But Pythor is just the supreme villain. He's funny, he's likable, he's sinister, he's manipulative, he's evil, he's got a great design, a brilliant vocal performance by Michael Dobson. He's consistently written. He and Garmanon, and I guess Sensei Wu maybe, I guess, yeah, just he and Garmanon are the only two characters from the beginning of Ninjago who are there to the end, who are just consistently great all the way through. Every single time you see the two of them. And that really just shows how much of an understanding the writers had of his character. No matter when they changed writers, he was always just as great. I wonder how he would have been handled in the Oni trilogy era, but he wouldn't have fit there anyway, so it's good we just got him when we did. And yeah, that's all I gotta say about Pythor. Comment down below. How do you think Pythor would fare on your Ninjago villain ranking? Or even just, how do you rate him as a villain in general? That's all for now, and as always, keep on juicing!